Hi, anyone and everyone. Welcome to Have You Heard About This Case? My name is Sam.
And my name is Kelly. Today, I am very excited because I have done what I thought was impossible. I am bringing you all a case from Wisconsin that Sam has never heard of.
Oh, no.
Yes.
There's not many of them. I know a lot of them.
There are a lot of interesting things about this case, but one act in the courtroom was so egregious to me that I knew I had to cover this case. I did a deep dive into court TV, but before we jump off that diving board, Sam, what's our question today?
All right. Well, I'm thinking for our question today, we're coming pretty close to the holiday season, mid-November here. What is one of your favorite holiday traditions?
So, I just thought of a tradition that makes me smile so much. I'm glad you asked this question. My favorite tradition is the Christmas pickle. I don't know if you are familiar.
I know it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
If you don't know what we are talking about, I don't know. Is it a German thing? Are you guys German?
Is it German?
Yes.
Yeah. I would say Wisconsin is very German, so it's like a Wisconsin thing is how I grew up with
I was gonna say, I was like, is it a German thing for you too? Because as much as my father would like the world to not know, my mother is half German. She is half German and half Irish. She has a very German maiden name, so German and hard to spell that we use it as our internet passwords. It's a Germanic tradition, apparently, and we've adopted it here in America and all over this little globe. And it is an ornament of a pickle, and you hide the pickle on the tree. So it's somebody's job. I think the person who won last year should do it personally, in my opinion. But I don't want to start any ruckus here between Christmas pickle people. Because you have to hide the ornament on the Christmas tree. And then the idea is you let the little kids or the grown adults, whoever you want, if you can find the pickle, whoever finds the pickle first gets good luck for the year. And that is how we did the pickle in my family. Sam, was your pickle...
See, we never did the game. We just hung a pickle. We just knew you had to hang a pickle every year. We're not German. That's just like, we had a major Christmas store in my hometown. And it's like, there's always like a pickle section.
Yes.
And so,
yes,
like we just ended up getting a pickle ornament one year. And so it just became like the pickle has to be on the tree.
Right.
Because in my family, we have so many ornaments. We can't put them all up on our tree. So it's like we cycle through each year, but the pickle has to be a staple.
Yes.
So like I always knew the tradition of like you're supposed to find it and everything. But by the time we started doing it, my sister and I were like late teenagers, early adults. So we never really did it properly.
Oh,
but I know it's a tradition that a lot of households do.
If you walk into a Cosgrove Christmas, we still do that shit. Like, hello, my name is Kelly, and I am elderly. And we still are like, who can find the fucking pickle? Do you see the fucking pickle? Do you see it? Did you find the pickle? Like but we've been doing it since we were little kids. Like it's been a tradition in our family.
Yeah, we've been doing it for like 10, 15 years. So we were much older.
Yeah, my mom is so German that, we've been pickle people all my life. And we also were St. Nicholas Day people. I don't know if you did that growing up.
Oh, see, I never did that until college.
You didn't do that
until
my roommate? Not till college.
My roommate, my freshman year of college, literally stole my shoe and sent it home with her mom.
Shit.
And I was like, I had no clue what was happening. I was so upset I couldn't find one of my shoes. And then suddenly it like appeared on my desk because her mom mailed it back with all the stuff in it. And I had no clue what was happening.
So funny. Oh my God. I'm going to have to cut.
Yeah, I was 18.
Oh my
I had
God.
no clue.
I'm going to have to cut a lot of my scream laughter from this. Oh my God. That's so funny. Because, okay, for those of you...
Yeah, we never did that at my house.
You were like, what in the alarming fuck is going on right now?
I just wanted my shoe.
Yeah, exactly. I just want my stuff. You're in college, you're like, did you steal it? I know you still, where is it? And you're like, oh, I don't know.
Luckily, she like took it and then mailed it home immediately. And then like within a couple days, it was back. But it was just like, I'm like, where could it have gone?
That is so funny. And so for those of you who don't do St. Nicholas Day, it is another, I believe, German holiday. I would search, but let's see. You know what? Let's check.
My roommate was German, so it makes sense.
Okay, southern Germany and other traditionally Catholic regions. And my mother's family was Episcopalian, so at some point they were probably Catholic and were like, peace out, which was what my dad's family did too. But if you don't celebrate, it's St. Nicholas Day, and it's December 6th. So it's like, so Sam had every reason to be like, why is my shoe missed? What is going on? Because it's just it's the very beginning of December. And what you're supposed to do is you are supposed to take your shoes out and you leave them on your porch. And then overnight, St. Nicholas comes and he fills your shoes with little goodies. And a lot of the times, it's just little pieces of candy. For parents who don't want their children to lose their minds, it's probably like tiny toys or something. But you do, yes, you remove your shoes for this holiday. So poor Sam got surprised. And we celebrated that since I was little growing up too. I've done St. Nicholas Day.
Yeah, I knew nothing about it until I was 18.
God, that's funny. Darian, what about you? What's your favorite holiday? Or favorite holiday tradition? Yeah, your favorite tradition.
I don't have many overall, really. Except when I decorate for Christmas, I have a process. I love to decorate alone. I like lay everything out in my apartment before getting it up. But I always, every single time, have Lethal Weapon playing in the background because that is my childhood Christmas movie.
You guys are so cool. Like, and also, I've been to Sam's during Christmas season when it's been decorated. And let me tell you, I've been to a lot of Marriotts that look almost exactly the same.
I love decorating for Christmas. It is a process. It is intense. It takes a very long time, but I love it.
I love that. I love the word choice. It's intense.
I literally hang wreaths from my ceiling. So
I one more tradition that I wish I could follow, but I don't really have the space. Perhaps I can make it a desk-sized one, but if you have listened to most of our podcast, or at least the Danny Green episode, you know that Kelly is from Cleveland, Ohio, which is where A Christmas Story was shot. So every house on the block
can I tell you something?
Has a leg lamp.
I've never seen A Christmas Story.
Girl, it plays 24 hours on the I don't know what channel. Was some channel.
And I play Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
And Fargo.
Yeah, we don't really have movies that we watch in particular. I just like it when everybody gets out their leg lamps because
See, I do like the leg lamp. I do know about that.
That's the tradition I wish I had. I don't have room for a leg lamp. And I could maybe get a tiny desk one or an ornament one. But there are people they are icons. They are right. I'm sorry, non-Chicago people, this probably means nothing to you. But they are right at the corner of Briar Place and Sheridan. So, like, right when you're coming off Lakeshore Drive and you're just trying to get back home, they have a big window. And every Christmas season, they put a leg lamp in it. And it's my favorite thing.
Oh, I'll have to check that out because I drive through there a lot.
Yes, it is my favorite thing. Because we did used to watch it, not in the way it is now, where it's like, we're going to watch A Christmas Story over and over and over again until we barf. We didn't do that. We watched it if it was on TV. But we always did.
Yeah, we didn't watch a whole lot of like actual true Christmas theme movies growing up. We watched ones that my dad thought would be really funny if you ask a 5-year-old girl what her favorite Christmas movie was, and she responded with something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it all came about.
That is pretty funny. They're like, what if our kid always answered Lethal Weapon? That would be great.
Say it's 30 years later and I'm still answering the same question.
Their underrated Christmas movie is secretly a Christmas movie, Catch Me If You Can.
Is it? I haven't seen that in so long.
And Catch Me If You Can, yes, Frank Abagnale only contacts, I love Catch Me If You Can. Shame on me for not remembering his character name, but Tom Hanks, the cop, Frank Abagnale, who is writing the bad checks who the cops can't catch, only contacts him on Christmas.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the end battle where, like, it's going down, there's, like, Christmas lights up everywhere and stuff, and people are like, it's a Christmas movie! But maybe it's time for us to jump off our diving board, right?
Yes, let's get into it.
I didn't realize this would be a two-parter when I was researching it, but then I took a step back and I realized how much research I had, and now we are going to be giving you part 1 of the case of Rosalio Gutierrez. And like I said, it is one Sam hasn't heard from Wisconsin.
I'm excited.
In February of 2020, so 3 years ago, Sadie Beecham had decided to end her long-term relationship with Zachariah Anderson, who was 42. Beecham and Anderson had 3 children together, but the relationship was over. We've all been there. Sometimes the interest just isn't there. Even if you have 3 kids, maybe it becomes time to move on.
Yeah, sometimes it's just happier for everyone to separate.
Exactly. And we say that a lot on this podcast. Like, please just separate or get divorced. And in this situation, I don't know if they were ever married, because the only sources I could find listed them as being in a long-term relationship. So I don't know that there was even a marriage to terminate there. But either way, Sadie had her eye on a new partner. She had been messaging Rosalio Gutierrez Jr., and he was 40, and she'd been messaging him online. She already had something in common with Rosalio, who is a father to 2 young children. And I think we should remember that. He is a father to 2 young children.
Okay.
And luckily, I would just like to say thank you to the Gutierrez family for being as open as you were with the media when you did not have to be, sharing your feelings, sharing his story. We applaud you. When you are a victim of a crime so awful like this, you aren't obligated to do anything for anyone. And I am happy to say in this case there is a lot of information that survives about Rosalio. And we don't usually, sometimes at least, get to say that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times I struggle to really find the personality.
Exactly.
Of some of the victims we discuss, and I really wish I could find more every time.
And it's always about finding that line, too, where it's like, how do I find out more about this without being invasive? What was supposed to be released, what wasn't? This was nothing like that. They wanted everybody to know, because I think you'll understand why, too. Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. was born on April 10th, 1980. And like we just stated, he was a young man of 40 with 2 children, and he was from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Did I say that right, Sam? Kenosha?
You
All
did.
right. Okay. All
Kenosha.
right. Just a second. His close friends often referred to him as Junior, and he was called Pocho by his mother, which was a childhood nickname. He graduated from the University of Wisconsin Parkside with dual degrees in criminal justice and sociology.
Oh, nice. That's a good pair.
Yeah, it is, because the next thing I wrote was, it kills me again, like so many people who we talk about on this show, what good Rosalio could have done in the world, and that we've all been robbed of that good that he could have done.
Right.
And most certainly his mother, Celia Patterson, was the most robbed of this. She described him as, quote, the best son a mom could ever wish for. I
No.
know, isn't that this Celia Patterson is, that's why I felt I had to say a thank you, because she is clearly so heartbroken and bereft over the loss of her son, but she's still down, but she's not out. She wants justice for her son. And I think that's wonderful. And she, yeah, the best son a mom could wish for. She said that he was a loving father and a very good friend. And the poor, clearly grieving woman also told Dateline, quote, he did so much for his children. He always had me cracking up. He was a very wonderful person. Most of all, he was a good human being and needed to be on this earth much longer than when he was taken. My son is not just missing. Someone somewhere knows something.
So we're looking for somebody who's missing. That's just such. I can't even imagine that position.
Missing,
And then
yes.
having to go to a place like Dateline and having to talk about it. Like it takes a lot of strength on her part.
And to tell Dateline he's not missing. Somebody knows something. Like, I know. And
Right.
Patterson would unfortunately be correct, as Sadie Beecham and Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. were together for 3 years before they would be embroiled in the center of a homicide case that neither of them could have predicted because of Sadie Beecham's ex. And I'm going to tell you guys now early that I hate this guy. And I think you will too. Okay. Who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love that?
So at least we have the warning, so we can all be on the same page.
Right. Yeah. Everybody get ready. This guy sucks. Zachariah Anderson, Sadie Beecham's ex partner. And she is the mother to his children. So he's
Okay.
proving to be difficult to shake. So difficult that Sadie Beecham would file a criminal complaint stating that Anderson had been stalking her after their breakup.
No, no.
Yeah. She said that it had gone on for weeks, and it was because he was, quote, jealous of her new relationship. Anderson allegedly put a burner phone in Beecham's car to track her movements and used another GPS tracker and listening devices to terrorize the couple.
That's just terrifying.
Isn't that horrible that somebody could just slip like a burner phone into your car, like under the seat, like in between the seat and the console, and you wouldn't even know?
Right.
And then
Yeah, it's
they can track
awful.
you. Like, and this guy, Zachariah Anderson, knows exactly what he's doing. He's very smart.
Yeah, I think if you're making those sorts of movements, like you have clear
That's the
intention.
thing, yes, is that a lot of times, I mean, he's going to do dumb stuff because they always do, and they always screw it up, and I love it. But I will say that in committing these felonies, he knows exactly what he is doing. And he knows it's wrong. But he doesn't stop doing it, and that's what makes it illegal, folks. So, terrorize is probably the right word, because Gutierrez Jr. had last been seen at his apartment in the 3700 block of 15th Street. Unfortunately and unbelievably, at this time of this crime, 2020, the apartment complex had no security cameras.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, Kenosha's not that small of a town either. Like, I can imagine a smaller town potentially not having it. But Kenosha is a decent sized town.
I can't even imagine a smaller sized town doing it. Like,
I can imagine my hometown not having cameras. I can totally imagine that. But that's a couple thousand people versus tens of thousands that are in Kenosha.
yeah, incredibly. And nobody, so I would implore anybody who lives in the 3700 block of 15th Street in, which specifically, Kenosha. Yes. Check your Ring doorbell footage. I don't know if it goes back this far. That's the thing. It's only 3 years, but
yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it's only 3 years, but I just couldn't believe that there was no CCTV entered into this at all. Like
Right.
There's no surveillance of this footage at all. Which is, again, I think, because Zachariah Anderson is smart. And he is a stalker, and he is watching them, and he probably has observed that that apartment complex did not have cameras.
Yeah, probably.
A woman named Kim Lavora testified that she knew Gutierrez through a site called FB Dating. I imagine that's through Facebook. I
recently heard of that for the first time. I didn't even know Facebook had a dating thing, but someone mentioned it recently.
I guess that's how the kids are doing it.
I'm also just not a social media person at all. So I'm not the one to be asking about any social media anything.
I gotta imagine that Facebook runs something called FB Dating.
It makes sense. Like, they're trying to do everything.
Right, exactly. Okay, it is. It is Facebook. It is a dating element that has been added to Facebook. Which...
All right, well, now we know.
Yeah, I guess... Sure. Why not? It used to be a place to find the people you went to college with and make sure that nobody from high school could find you. But now you can date. So, a woman named Kim Lavora had been messaging Gutierrez. They were just friends, but she knew Rosalio wanted to take things further. And she said she last spoke to Gutierrez Jr. on the phone on May 17th, 2020 at 8:49 p.m. She did not know that she'd be the last person to hear from Rosalio, and she never saw him in person. No one would after that night either.
So Rosario is on Facebook dating,
Rosalio.
and he is
Rosalio.
So Rosalio is on Facebook dating.
Yes.
And he's talking to both Kim and
Sadie.
Sadie, was that her name?
Yes, that was her name.
Okay, so he's talking to two people, which I don't think that's uncommon by any means. But
I don't know that it's uncommon. I do know that in a lot of the articles, Sadie Beecham is referred to as his girlfriend.
Okay, so maybe it's a little more weird at that point, but everyone's different. Everyone has different types of relationships.
Yeah, so could be weird, might not be weird. Because as the woman said, she just wanted to be friends. So, I mean...
Yeah, so that's what, like, it also, like, even if you have a relationship where you are dating multiple people, if you're open about it, whatever.
Right.
If you want to be friends, cool, whatever.
Right.
Like,
and the fact is...
Either way.
The fact is, even if Gutierrez Jr. is dating Sadie Beecham and he's stringing Kim Lavora along, I am a feminist till the day I die, but also until death becomes involved. Because even if he was cheating, you don't get. He doesn't have to be murdered.
Right. Yeah. Like that doesn't need to be the end result of
Right, we
anything.
don't stone people in the courtyards anymore. Like, he doesn't deserve to get murdered. But yeah, sometimes people talk to multiple people, and she's listed as his girlfriend of 3 years. So maybe
That's why I was like, I thought it was a decent chunk of time. But hey, there's also a whole TV show about this.
there's plenty of
So
TV shows about this. I know.
people do this
I know
all the time.
because I watch every single one of them. Everyone. Everyone. So, yeah, I'll clarify here that yes, Kim Lavora is a separate person who was on a dating website and found Rosalio's profile on the dating site. And that is how she ended up speaking to him, being the last person he spoke to.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine through the messenger function on like Facebook, because it's she said specifically she never saw him in person.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and no one would, again, like I said, no one would ever see Rosalio again. And Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. is reported missing on May 19th, 2020. So as I was going through my notes...
Oh, so that was pretty quick.
Right. As I was going through my notes, I just wanted to state, though, that there are 2 days between May 17th and May 19th. And I think there's just some evidence that's entered into court that I think could have been removed or taken, like, because we know the thing is Zachariah Anderson is a pathological stalker, and a lot of the stuff that some of the stuff that comes out in court is listening devices and that sort of stuff, and the police will say coming on that they didn't find any, but I'm like, that's 2 days there though where he could have removed those devices from the property.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So he had time, because Rosalio isn't reported missing until May 19th.
Right.
He's reported missing by his girlfriend. Again, we'll call her his girlfriend, his partner, Sadie Beecham, to the police. And she was worried because she had not seen or heard from Gutierrez Jr. She also told police that she drove to his apartment to check on him, and no one answered the door. However, the patio door was open, and chillingly, Beecham was able to see heavy bloodstains on the door, carpet, and furniture.
Oh, wow.
She did exactly what she was supposed to do, and she called the police and asked them to conduct a welfare check, which...
Absolutely.
I think that's incredibly smart, because then you're not tromping all over everything you see.
Oh, yeah. Don't go in there. If you can avoid it at any cost, do not go in there.
Don't go in there and ruin the crime scene. Let people who are experienced in this enter that house first and clear it. You know? I think she did exactly the right thing, just asking for a welfare check, because she doesn't know, but it gets worse. She called them to conduct a welfare check. Detective Lauren Anschutz responded to the residence and found what appeared to be blood running down the wall and door frame, walls inside a cabinet, on the ceiling, on the couch. It was a very bloody crime scene.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It was a very bloody crime scene. And we will hear more about that and what Rosalio had to endure when we get to the court testimony in part 2. But remember, that is just a lot of blood. Because the way I said it, I sort of made it sound like I said the walls inside a cabinet. But no, it was the walls inside the apartment have blood on them, and a separate cabinet has blood on it as well.
Yeah, it really sounds like there was probably some sort of spray or like
yes.
There's a specific word, cast off.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Was covering the room.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And We've got blood in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. 6 places. We have blood. And Beecham also told the officers upon their arrival about Mr. Anderson's stalking of them.
Oh, good.
Again, yeah, good.
Yeah, as much as information that you can immediately give,
Yeah,
the more beneficial it is to either look into it or rule it out.
exactly. Tell them right away. Tell them right. And she sure did. And I was like, good for you. Because as I'll talk about a little bit in part 2, it's a failure in our system to stalking victims that they can't really.
We have a major issue in
We
stalking
can't really.
and like the laws and the
Yes.
protections. It's
It's
awful.
broken. It's broken. You can't do anything until they actually harm you, which this is a perfect example of that. And so she does the right thing. She tells the police, my ex-partner is stalking both of us now. Officers entered the home, and upon seeing the scene, they discovered blood scattered all throughout the main living space, and that there were clearly signs of an apparent struggle. In court testimony, senior evidence tech for Kenosha, Officer Eric Wiener, said, quote, it appeared to be cast-off or forcible blood. As he collected blood evidence at Rosalio Gutierrez's apartment, he was asked. Kenosha Officer Eric Wiedner, he's senior evidence tech. And he was asked by the defense, and he asked, what did you see there at Rosalio Gutierrez's apartment? And Wiedner responded, possible bloodstain evidence. That's a quote. On the knob itself, Gravely said. Correct, Wiedner said. I believe the knob they are referring to here is the front door knob, and that it's possible Rosalio was ambushed as he went into his apartment. And that's why...
Oh, so it's like on the exterior, and that's why that small bit would be there, because then they pushed him inside.
Right. Yeah, I think that's why they're highlighting it, that it was on the knob and the door as well.
And that would make sense if you're at your front door and you're attacked. The majority of the attack does not happen in that door. So if you get blood there, it probably a smaller amount in comparison to inside the apartment.
Yeah. And you're just trying to get your keys in the lock, whatever it is,
Yeah.
like it's a prime time for someone to ambush you, which is, I think, exactly what happened here. Blood samples were taken from the crime scene, and it was determined that the collected blood in the home belonged to Gutierrez Jr. In working the case, investigators determined that Rosalio was killed in his home on May 17th, 2020, between 9:06 p.m. and 9:37 p.m.
Oh, well, that's a small window.
Yes. And why I mentioned he has all the way till the 19th. Anderson has all the way till the 19th to remove any devices on his cars or things like that. Because I forgot to mention that Detective Lauren Anschutz also noticed that though Gutierrez was not home, both his vehicles were at the home.
Oh, okay.
Anderson, in that time between 9:37 p.m. May 17th to the 19th, when the police catch right on. It's like they hit him.
He could have even done it like immediately after the murder, potentially.
That's what I think happened.
Like in that same moment could have happened. He didn't even necessarily have to go back.
I agree. I think that's exactly what happened. I think he was at Rosalio's apartment and he was monitoring Rosalio and Sadie. And when he murdered Rosalio, he also removed all the evidence that he had been monitoring them. I think that's what happened, in my opinion.
Makes sense. It's just like, it's a logical step of events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why wouldn't you remove that? initially, their ability to pinpoint the time of death with what little they had was a good surprise for me. At least what we know what the time window is to look at for alibis.
Oh, absolutely.
I was also a little confused at how they determined that so quickly and how they determined that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask him, like, do you have like timestamps and stuff that would force that window to be so small?
I have more information for you coming in testimony that is going to
Okay.
help clarify how we got to this small a window so quickly, because it's only 2 days later and we've already pinpointed it. So testimony that is given will clarify how that happened so rapidly. Because I was like, wow, that's not that long to get a.
So that's a very short window
Yeah.
to be able to determine so definitively.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry. There's more in testimony, so put a pin in it. During the trial, two people who lived near Gutierrez Jr. said on May 17th, 2020, around 8 p.m., they didn't see or hear anything. And that around 10 p.m., they would have been asleep and wouldn't have heard anything. So neighbors ain't helping at all.
Right.
But also at trial, a neighbor, Marissa Swanigan, who lived in the same apartment building above Rosalio, said she heard a loud bang below her living room, as if something had fallen over or if someone was forcing something big against the wall. In my research,
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And what I wanted to know that I couldn't find out in my research was what time she heard this bang, but I imagine it helped detectives determine Rosalio's time of death.
Very possibly. Like, it could be something like the Faith Hedgepeth case, where the neighbor said that she heard 3 loud bangs because she was watching a certain thing on TV at that time, and that's how they determined what time she heard them.
Yeah.
Could have easily been something like that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As the police spoke with Gutierrez Jr.'s girlfriend, Sadie, they uncovered troubling facts. She told them that she had concerns that her ex-boyfriend, Zachariah Anderson of Mequon, Wisconsin?
Mequon.
Her ex-boyfriend from Mequon was tracking her, like we've been talking about. Not only that, but that he was jealous of her new relationship with Rosalio.
But they've been together for 3 years at this point.
Exactly.
Like, that's not a new relationship anymore.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder how long they were dealing with it. It makes me wonder if maybe he didn't know about it until 2020. Maybe he just thought she was dating around. I don't know. It is such a strange occurrence to have this snap when they've been together for 3 years.
Right.
And it's because Zachariah Anderson is a troubled, horrible human being. And I do believe he was jealous of her relationship with Rosalio, new or old. And at first in the investigation, Anderson was, quote, mistakenly alibied by his ex-girlfriend, Christine Remsburg, who told law enforcement he was with her on May 17th, 2020.
Mistakenly?
I literally wrote in the script, interesting. What I wonder is when she called the police to rectify this, quote, mistake.
Yeah, like how do you mistake? Like, is it like maybe something where she's like, oh, I was with him like 2 days before, I mixed up my days?
Yeah, and did you call right then? Because it kind of sounds like you didn't call right then. Because also, recall, he has, from that evening, May 17th, when he kills Rosalio, to the 19th, when he's reported missing. So he has time to work at this alibi with Christine Remsburg, if it, in fact, because I don't believe it was a mistake.
So wait. So during the initial questioning, he gave the police saying, hey, I was with my ex-girlfriend, Christine. And then she corroborated that
Christine spoke to authorities.
sometime later.
From my knowledge.
So Christine
Yes.
said, but wait, hold on. So Anderson is talking to police. He says, I was with my ex-girlfriend, Christine. Police talk to Christine. She says, yes, Zachariah was with me on the 17th. And then just sometime later, she's just like, oh, I made a mistake. It wasn't that day, or he just wasn't with me. Or did she come forward first and say he was with me?
I don't know. And I want to know. I want to know at what point she rectified this, quote, mistake. Because the article, all the article said was that, he was mistakenly alibied by his ex-girlfriend. Like, that's a big mistake to make.
Interesting.
That's a big mistake to make. And
yeah, I just feel like there's a whole lot of context that we don't know with that as well.
At what point did you call the police and say, was there a point when you called the police and said? And that we'll hear a little bit more about at trial. But I did want to clarify that I put mistakenly in quotes because I fully believe she intended to provide a false alibi for him.
See, like, since we know nothing about their relationship in reality, like, I have no idea, because it's like, it could just legitimately be a mistake saying like, oh, I mixed up my days.
Yeah.
And called in at that point and like found a receipt or something that was like, oh yeah, I actually did this that day.
I guess it's just hear nothing except that he was mistakenly alibied by his ex-girlfriend early at first in this investigation. The next time I hear about this alibi in my research is during court testimony when it's being refuted.
Yeah. Well, just because we know nothing about her, like, I don't know if that was malicious or not on her part. It could have been a legitimate accident that she came forward with it to rectify it once she realized it.
Yeah.
Who knows how long it could have been. Or she could have been behind this and purposely created a false alibi. Like, I know nothing about her.
In my opinion, she was purposefully creating a false alibi for Zachariah Anderson. And as soon as she got some fire under her, they were like, that's not lining up. She flipped and said it was a mistake. I mixed up my days. You know, because she doesn't want to be involved. Yeah, I just wrote interesting. Because it literally the day that, she told law enforcement that he was with her on May 17th, 2020. So she came forward and she told them. And so, at what point did you rectify this mistake? Is the prosecution...
Yeah, maybe it could have been the same day. I don't know. We just don't know enough about her.
Is it coming out in trial for the first time? Because it looks a whole lot worse if it's coming out in trial for the first time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So 2 longtime friends of Rosalio's had a bad feeling about him being missing. Brandon Hendrickson and Michael Campbell went to Zachariah Anderson's home to ask him if he knew anything about what had happened to their friend. They met Anderson at the door, but he immediately got them to leave by convincing them that he was Zachariah Anderson's brother, not him.
That's pretty funny. But also, Brandon and Michael are showing up here to cause some trouble. Why else would they go to his house? Like, they're there to really cause
Brandon
some
and
trouble.
Michael are not having it. They're like, yo, dude, we know you did it. You know you did it. What's going on here? Where...
And Zachariah probably knew he was in so much trouble and had to come up with something fast.
And he was... Exactly. That's like the most quick alibi you could ever come up with in your life. Like, oh, no, I'm in my twin. Like, that's the... Like, I just have a lot of respect for Brandon Hendrickson and Michael Campbell for going over there and being like, where is he? We know you know something. Like, that's a good friend.
Right.
Their visit coincides with the thread of which is about to unravel for Zachariah Anderson. And it's a doozy, folks. The police obtained Anderson's laptop, I imagine through a search warrant, as when you hear what was on it, you'll know there's no way he'd give it up willingly. I couldn't find anything about a search warrant issued for the electronics, but it has to be that he was forced to, because listen to what was on it. The laptop contained a folder entitled Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. This folder contained a huge amount of information on Rosalio. Anderson had photos of the man, screenshots of information about him from online court records, photos of his business information, electronic maps of his residence, and Rosalio's home address.
Wow. So that's interesting because, like, obviously to get a search warrant, you need some sort of probable cause.
Sure.
And so I'm just wondering, like, what would the probable cause be at this point other than the potential stalking, which, as you kind of already mentioned, that I'm sure is going to go so much deeper probably in the next episode, that stalking laws don't protect people. And I highly doubt a stalking allegation would be probable cause enough to search his laptop.
That's why I added the line in there that I couldn't find anything about the search warrant that was issued.
Yeah, that's why it's interesting. Because it's like, you're right. I don't think he would hand this over. I fully agree with you.
Yeah, he wouldn't give
But there had to be something there that got them that search warrant, and I'm curious what that is.
I'm as well.
Because I doubt it's stalking. As much as I hate to say it, it should be in this case. Like, I know where this is going. I don't know this case, but I can tell the exact direction it's going into.
I think it's one of those things that's behind the scenes, the mechanics that we can't see, that they've started a preponderance of the evidence that this man is responsible, in fact, for the murder through the stalking and through that kind of stuff.
But that's not what's giving them the search warrant. That's not what the judge is signing off on.
I don't know.
I'm sure it's just probably, like, it might be something that's sealed that we just might not know about. But I'm curious as what it would be.
I don't know. That's why I added the line. Because he wouldn't have handed it over willingly.
Yes, I fully agree with you. I don't think he would have handed this over if he had the choice. Or he'd remove that stuff before handing it over.
Absolutely. Because that is so much information. He had so much information on this man. So on May 19th, 2020, the same day that Gutierrez was declared missing, law enforcement promptly went to check out the alleged stalker, Zachariah Anderson. Good for them. Officers, including Detective Anschutz, who first responded to the welfare check for Gutierrez, arrived on the scene of Anderson's property, and they discovered a still smoldering burn pit.
No.
The next day, the officers conducted a search of the pit with a cadaver dog. The dog hit on the burn pit, and investigators found remnants of clothing, a charred bleach bottle, and steel-toed boots. Then, authorities discovered there was a second burn pit on a nearby tree farm owned by Anderson's family in Saukville, Wisconsin, and they investigated it as well. This search also yielded remnants of clothing and other fabric pieces. These fabric pieces matching the color and fabric of a shirt that had been frequently worn by Zachariah Anderson.
It's interesting that he has two separate burn pits.
I just think they own a lot of land, it sounds like.
But it just feels like, okay, because Saukville's a little bit more west, I think, than Kenosha. It seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, well, the tree farm is owned by his family.
Yeah, but it's like you're gonna go take one stuff to one place, burn it, drive, go to another place. Yeah, they're an hour away from each other.
I don't know. I don't know if I think that's unreasonable if you're trying to get rid of murder evidence, you know? Because I think they're his clothes and whatever he used to clean up. Because I have more stuff that's coming that make me think it's his clothes that he used to clean up his own house, not Gutierrez's house. Because clearly,
I just feel like that's a risk to be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna burn this evidence here. I'm going to stop what I'm doing, stop destroying evidence, hop in my car, drive an hour, build another fire, and then continue the job.
Yeah.
That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Investigators also examined Anderson's car and found a, quote, reddish-brown stain on the van's trim near to the tailgate. State crime forensic scientist Lisa Treffinger feared using luminol would dilute the sample, making it unusable for DNA testing. So instead, the sample was collected.
So that had been a really small stain
that
they found.
And we love Lisa Treffinger for doing this because she's right. Luminol could have diluted the sample.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like one of those like kind of catch-22 things. Like, I see a spot.
Right.
There could be more. I can't guarantee
so
it.
I've got to just take what I've got and hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you can't risk it. It's it's that catch-22. So now we're going to get into a little, I know I mentioned before that there wasn't a lot of CTV footage, but we're going to get into the little bit of it that there is here. Because investigators discovered surveillance footage of Anderson on May 18th, 2020. So the day before police arrive on his property, he was at Walmart in Saukville purchasing 3 cans of sardines, 2 packages of hefty 13-gallon garbage bags, 2 boxes of latex gloves, and 2 containers of Clorox bleach wipes. So it would seem to me...
That's a lot.
And it would seem to me at this point in my research that Anderson never had any intention of cleaning up the crime scene at Gutierrez Jr.'s apartment. And it's grim to think there is a second crime scene at his home, potentially.
Well, you said that the cadaver dogs hit on the fire pit. Did they find any bones or anything?
Put a pin in that.
Okay, because I'm just wondering, like, what did the cadaver dogs exactly hit on? Did they hit on scent that could have been on the clothing, which that means he probably would have had to have been around the dead body for a good period of time for the scent to get onto the clothing like that? Or you have actual bacteria that's human decay.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you, but this is a no-body homicide. They never found anything. Nothing. Of Gutierrez.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So I think my grim thinking here is that he never intended to clean up Gutierrez's apartment, and he dismembered him at his home and was cleaning up that.
I was just about to say
that's what I think.
The smell would have been the dismemberment.
Yes. That's what I think.
Okay. I was thinking that for a little bit, but I'm like, I don't know if I should say it, but I have to. I'm so curious. I have to ask that question.
I think the cadaver dog hit on those burn pits because if they checked the first one with cadaver dogs, then they must have, I would hope, have brought them to the second one. And I think the cadaver dogs are hitting.
That also could make more sense with 2 fires.
Yeah, because I think he was dismembered, which is horrific.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, how big were these fires? Like, they're calling it a fire pit.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not calling it a bonfire. So there might not have been enough fire.
Yeah. They're just simply the pit.
Too many logs for a fire.
The pit might not have been big enough. Yeah.
Exactly. That makes more sense with 2 fires. Because it's like, if he's only burning his clothes, makes absolutely no sense that he has 2 fires.
So I think the cadaver dogs hit on the burn pits because that's where he burned the bodies. And they found the remnants of the last fires he set, which were to burn the clothes and the materials that he used to clean up the dismemberment.
That makes more sense.
That's what I think.
I was thinking that. I just wasn't sure if I should say it this early. But that's where my brain's going.
Planning on revealing it a little later, but not by much. So, yeah, that's unfortunately where my brain's going, and that's super grim. I know that's probably really tough for all you guys, because Sam and I were just talking like we weren't on the podcast right now. But
yeah, we'll see how much of that airs.
I think that's what happened, and Sam, I agree with you. I think there wasn't enough room in the fire pit.
And it's an awful thing to think about. But as somebody who grew up having a lot of fires and small fire pits and bonfires. Like that was a constant thing
Right.
in my childhood.
Right.
Like I know how much you could put on a fire before it starts to impact the fire itself or grow too big.
If you keep adding shit, the fire's gonna go out.
Yeah, or turn into something that you can't control anymore.
However, if you did it correctly, which we will learn, Zachariah Anderson knew a lot about how to set fires correctly, it would result in there being literally no trace of someone. Rosalio Gutierrez Jr.
Oh wow. Well, I don't know a ton about this, and actually, I could easily make a phone call to find out. But doesn't it need to be a lot hotter than the average fire would get to not have any remnants of bones or teeth?
I don't know. That would be a good question. I do think a crematory gets hotter. I don't know
It definitely does. I know that. I think that's why a lot of times they do find remnants. It's because the fire's just too hot to actually fully burn to ash.
What I don't know is that the kind of firepower Zachariah Anderson had at his disposal.
Like an accelerant?
I don't know how much of that he had available to him, and given that there were 2 burn pits, maybe he had some. But I do have some more in the script about that.
Well, let's put a pin on it, because let's make some phone calls. I know a handful of firefighters.
Yeah.
To ask that question to, so we can get some more detailed information.
Even if it doesn't burn as hot as a crematory, he easily could have taken what remained of the bone ash out and buried it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
The investigators accused Anderson of killing Gutierrez inside Gutierrez's own Wood Creek apartment and then hiding the body. With Anderson's pathological stalking, Rosalio probably never stood a chance against being jumped by Anderson, like we talked about, with just trying to get your keys in the door.
Right.
And the investigators believe that the first floor apartment was the crime scene, and that Anderson used both blunt and sharp-edged weapons to kill Gutierrez. He then went about his next task, which would be successful, hiding Gutierrez's body. Like we said, to this day, Rosalio Gutierrez Jr.'s body has not been found. So the prosecution is going to be headed into what's called a no-body homicide. A lot of our listeners probably already know that. And you guys all probably know that it makes conviction extremely difficult, as the defense can surely argue that they were an adult and just chose to leave.
Right.
However, they chose to pursue it, and on February 20th, 2021, Zachariah Anderson was taken into custody in relation to Gutierrez Jr.'s disappearance. On February 28th, 2023, a jury trial began in Kenosha County Circuit Court, with Zachariah Anderson facing 4 felonies in relation to the murder of Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. In the criminal complaint, Anderson is charged not only with the murder of Rosalio, but also hiding his corpse. And we've talked about it. It's bone-chilling to me. I don't know how you could have a corpse just buried or hidden somewhere so secretive to go through your life carrying that information, or to go...
Right.
In my opinion, he's literally keeping Rosalio's literal remains as a trophy of his crimes, where only he can go to visit it, and no one knows about it, and that is putrid.
Yeah, is it was it Myra Hindley and whoever her partner was who she murdered with would bury people in this like beautifully scenic moors in England, and that became like their special thing to like go to, where they buried all their bodies in this beautiful picturesque place.
I think it's just like that. Yep. I think it's his trophy. Only he can go visit it, and it's disgusting. And then, in front of a judge, jury, audience, and everyone in the courtroom, Anderson said he didn't kill, stalk, or dispose of anyone's body. He said, quote, "I'm innocent, Judge." I'll tell you more about the prosecution's very level-headed and good case, but first I just want to ask. Let's say you didn't kill anybody, Zachariah, which I think you did. Then how, Mr. Anderson, do you explain the dearth of information on Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. and Sadie Beecham on your personal computer in your home? How is that not stalking? Especially since you are facing in court 2 felonies of stalking.
Yeah, that's like, it's one of those things where, as defense counsel, how do you tell your client who it thinks that he can claim innocence and that like it's not good enough? Like, how do you try to convince a client to be like, you should plead guilty?
Plead out, man.
Because I feel like that's probably what happened here. There's clearly so much evidence against him that his defense team was probably like, man, it's not looking good. Like, I just say you
Sam,
you plead guilty, maybe we'll get you a deal. And he's just like, no.
Sam, I've written the script for both parts, and I can tell you that you are in the exact correct ballpark per usual in your family. You are in the exact correct ballpark.
Because it's just like, how like, I don't know a lot. Like, you all know as much as I do about this. Like, just a couple pieces that we have, like, you did it, man. Like, from the outside perspective, that's what it looks like.
Yes, Mr. Anderson, why was there so much of this information on your personal computer? Explain it.
Now I'm really curious about that search warrant.
Explain it to me. That information's there. Like, how did it get there? Who put it there, Mr. Anderson?
Right.
Prosecutors contended that there was just no other explainable matter for Rosalio's death, and they focused pointedly on DNA evidence, pictures, folders, and phone records showing that Anderson had been actively tracking Gutierrez. They stated that Anderson had even gone to Gutierrez's apartment before he disappeared. They also mentioned Anderson's denials to law enforcement when police came knocking for him days later.
So there's, like, evidence that he was at his apartment before his death?
According to the prosecutors.
Do we know, like, hours before or days before?
No. Yeah.
Interesting.
I do know that according to the prosecutors, Anderson had gone there before he had disappeared. And we'll hear testimony from someone who was with him on one occasion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember, this is a 2-parter, so there's going to be some stuff I don't get to in this episode.
Right.
The prosecution determined the motive was that Anderson was madly jealous of his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, Gutierrez Jr. He also was charged by the prosecution with, quote, repeat stalking of his ex-girlfriend, which makes me wonder, what is repeat stalking? How long had he been following Sadie Beecham?
That's a good question.
And never charged over it before Rosalio's murder.
Because, like, it's basically, like, stalking essentially means repeating behavior. Like, you're following this person over and over and over again. Like, it's not one instance, right?
Are you calling it repeat stalking because you've already arrested him on it once? Or
is it in, like, different periods of time? Like, he'll do it for a while, and then he'll stop, and then he'll...
I don't know. Maybe.
Pick it back up again. And maybe that's why it's been, like, the 3 years. And she's been with him for 3 years, and this is, like, the quote-unquote new relationship that they're now referring to. It's not really new, but to him it is, because his stalking recently started again.
Could be. Because, we have to remember that, like, we keep saying new relationship. They were together for 3 years, you guys. 3 years is a long time.
3 years is a long relationship. You're pretty committed if you're spending 3 years of your life with somebody.
He is clearly committed to, I don't want to say destroy that, but that's kind of what it seems like. And I don't know what...
No, destroy, interrupt, like...
I don't know what set him off. I don't know if he had been doing it the whole relationship, stalking them. I don't know if it was, like you said, episodic, and then something set him off and he was visiting more frequently. The prosecutors gave no further information that's publicly accessible than he had gone to Gutierrez's apartment before he disappeared.
Yeah, like I wonder too, like how did their relationship progress? Was it getting to the point where it was a lot more serious 3 years in and they just took things fairly slowly? Like there's a lot of different ways that this could have escalated for him.
Honestly, for me, I don't know. Maybe Sadie Beecham thought it was moving forward, but it sounds like he had profiles on dating sites.
Right, that's true.
I don't know.
It couldn't even, like, this is just like out of the box, like doesn't really, just an idea of how things could have happened because there's so many different ways. But like, what if she was getting annoyed with him because she found out he was on another dating app and was just chit-chatting with one of her friends who still has a connection to the ex, and like heard it through the grapevine. Like I feel like like I'm curious, but there's so many different ways that this could have escalated.
Oh yeah,
because of things like that.
Oh yeah,
I'm interested to see what it potentially could be as we go forward.
I don't understand it, and it's just another time to mention that stalking is just so dangerous. And if you're in that situation, please reach out to those around you, as many people around you as you can. Make as many reports with the police as you can, so you can point to all those reports that you tried to make, because our system is broken for people who are being stalked.
Yeah. Document anything and everything.
Especially if you request something and it is denied to you. Ask that it be documented that it was denied to you. There was also additional evidence that the prosecution brought forward to show Anderson's guilt. There was carpet missing in his work vehicle, a bleach bottle, and burned clothing. There was also evidence of the bleach being used on the work van's carpet with stains of it visible. They also found tens of thousands of dollars in recently withdrawn cash that they believed was his, quote, escape fund. They also mentioned again that police found no activity on Anderson's phone when police believed Gutierrez was killed.
Okay, so you have an escape fund and you have 2 days and you don't escape?
Thousands of dollars at your disposal. It makes me think he was doing the necessary cleanup stuff, like removing the devices he had hidden around, and maybe cleaning out those burn pits. I don't know.
2 days though. Like, who cares if you go to work at that point? You're about to escape. Like, you had the time.
You have tens of thousands of dollars of withdrawn cash. So that's the prosecution. The defense, of course, saw things differently. They argued that the facts presented did not support the state's explanation and said investigators, quote, put on blinders and ignored other possibilities for Gutierrez's disappearance. I'd just like to know what other possibilities the defense means here.
I was going to ask,
because after Rosalio had lost as much blood as his girlfriend, and then the investigators saw, what other possibility would there be for Rosalio? Besides going to a hospital with no ID and being cured and then disappearing into thin air. And even if he did that, there would be a CCTV trail and maybe even a record of a payment to a hospital on Gutierrez's account.
Well, what I think they're saying, which you're right, 100%. Like, that scenario can't happen. But what I think they're trying to say is, like, someone else could have killed him. And I'm looking at the evidence that they're referring to probably as the burn pit stuff. But you still have the same scenario here where it's like there's DNA evidence in that burn pit.
Right. How did it get there?
Like that, yeah. So it's like, yeah, someone else could have killed him. No, because you're the one who has the evidence that there had been an altercation to begin with.
His DNA is on your vehicle. How do you explain that?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it right now. Although Rosalio's body was never recovered, the prosecution had DNA evidence in their corner. Among other positive DNA results, there was a dried speck of a, quote, rust-colored substance found inside Anderson's work van, and testing returned it as positively belonging to Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. However, a separate expert, Lisa Trevinger, analyzed items from the crime scene as well, and her opinion was that the stain on Anderson's van was definitely blood, but that she couldn't confirm if it belonged to Gutierrez. However, when asked by Kenosha County District Attorney Michael Gravely in court, quote, "Did you do DNA testing?" Treffinger answered, yes. Gravely's next question was, quote, "Whose DNA was that a match for?" Treffinger answered, quote, "Rosalio Gutierrez." And that's where I'm going to leave you today. Next week, we'll explore the trial of Zachariah Anderson for the first-degree murder of Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. and the stalking of both Sadie Beecham and he. And we are going to give you a tip line right now because this is still a no-body homicide. There is still the ability to bring closure. Yep. So anyone with any information should contact the Kenosha Police Department at 262-605-5203. And there is a $10,000 reward for leading authorities to Rosalio's remains. Once again, that number was 262-605-5203. It's the Kenosha Police Department about Rosalio Gutierrez Jr. Sam, what are your final thoughts on part 1?
Ugh. I feel like this trial is just gonna make me angry.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I could tell by your tone. I know that I'm just gonna get heated during it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited to hear it, though. But I really hope that they're able to find his body and bring that closure. Because it sounds like, to me, we're probably going to have a conviction just based on the amount of evidence that is currently piled up against him.
A lot stacked against him.
Yeah.
But I'm incredibly compelled, as you are, by that search warrant and how they obtained it.
Curious.
And
I want to know what that first step was.
Yeah, what was the trigger that let you get that warrant? Like,
because it's not just the stalking. There's no way. Which is awful. It should have been, but that's not what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, like, was it just behind the scenes things that you lined up for a judge and said, like, listen, this is weird, this is weird, this is weird. Can you sign off on it? Like, I don't know.
No, you can't do that. No, you need something tangible. You need something that is like, I give permission for you to raid this person's home because this piece of evidence tells me that they have a high probability of being who you're looking for. And that they need that. Like there has to be something there. There has to be.
But I'm very curious to how they obtained that search warrant because he clearly had no time. Like, they clearly stormed him and got that laptop, or he would have deleted it and scrubbed it.
Yeah. It could have been something in connection to Sadie, and because of her relationship with Rosalio, that is what connected them for probable cause. It could have been that. Like, maybe it's something that they're keeping personal for her protection throughout this trial. Who knows?
Yes, maybe it could be the fact that she gave some type of closed door evidence that we're just not privy to. And that's the thing that's driving me the most nuts, that we're not privy to. Because we're privy to a lot in this case.
I would say usually that information comes out, which it's also a state by state thing. So I'm wondering, I don't even know this, but does Wisconsin have stricter laws when it comes to releasing information for search warrants? They might.
They might. I know that thing is very much state by state.
Yeah. And I don't know Wisconsin. I've never needed to be part of a search warrant before, so I don't know the laws. So
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't quite know how that works.
I'll look into it for part 2 and see if I can't find anything at all on how they got this warrant. Because I Googled it right now. I'm looking at Google, and it literally, all it says is, all the headlines are like, detective testifies, burn pit contents discussed, like that kind of stuff. Nothing about how they got the warrant, like the match. How did the match ignite?
Yeah, you'd probably need to find like the court documents for that.
Exactly. I need the transcripts.
Hey, they might be out there somewhere deep. Sometimes those are just like gotta dig a little bit, but you can find them.
Yeah, they also could be on a website that I really, 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 really don't want to go on, that has a timeline on it, but the problem is it's called freezachariahanderson.org.
Oh, hey, for research purposes, yeah, but you don't want to give them a view.
I might have to give them a view or a click, and I hate that, but I'm wondering if since they're arguing his side of the story, maybe they have more information, like this search warrant was unwarranted, or
Yeah, they
whatever,
might.
whatever it is.
I'll make a call too to see. I might be able to figure out if it's public information or not fairly easily.
Yeah, and either way, I just want to know what lit that match.
Yeah, I'm very curious. All right. Well, thank you all for listening to Have You Heard About This Case? If you liked this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Instagram at Have You Heard About This Case Pod, on TikTok at HYHATC, or you can email us at Have You Heard About This Case at gmail.com. Thanks, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.